In the quiet pre-dawn hours of September 22, 2020, a 911 call from a Laredo, Texas, home shattered the stillness. On the line, Joel Pellet, a registered nurse anesthetist, reported his wife, Maria Muñoz, was unresponsive. He claimed she might have taken too many prescription pills. Emergency responders rushed to the scene, a suburban house on Canyon Oak Drive. There, they found Pellet, dressed in surgical scrubs, attempting CPR on his 31-year-old wife at the top of the stairs. Less than 3 hours after that initial call, Maria Muñoz was pronounced dead. Her unexpected passing, a healthy young mother of two, marked the beginning of a complex and unsettling investigation that would unravel a hidden truth and give a voice to a woman's silence too soon. The initial scene inside the Muñoz Pellet residence immediately raised questions for responding officers. As police officer Gregorio de la Cruz arrived, his body camera captured the frantic moments. Joel Pellet, sweating profusely, appeared agitated. Crucially, when asked about the pills he claimed Maria had ingested, Pellet did not simply point to a nearby bottle. Instead, he left the immediate vicinity of Maria and walked into another room, returning shortly with a bottle of clonazepam, a sedative. This action, the absence of the bottle near Maria, and Pellet having to retrieve it, instantly struck Officer de la Cruz as suspicious. If Maria had taken pills, why wasn't the bottle by her side? Pellet's swift movement to put the bottle into his own pocket after showing it to the officer further compounded his initial doubt. Why would someone pocket medication during an emergency, especially after presenting it as central to their account of what had happened? Beyond the strange handling of the medication, the residents held other perplexing clues that hinted at something far more sinister than a simple overdose. A used syringe wrapper lay discarded on the floor. On the carpeted staircase, directly adjacent to where Maria was found, a needle catheter, the precise kind typically used for administering IVs, was discovered. A medical bag, containing more syringes and IV equipment, was also found within the home. While Pellet's profession as a nurse anesthetist might explain the presence of such medical supplies, their scattered placement, and the context of a sudden death in a domestic setting immediately raised significant red flags for investigators. Compounding these unsettling discoveries was a small, unexplained pinprick mark on Maria Muñoz's right elbow crease, a detail that resonated eerily with the presence of IV equipment and a used syringe wrapper. These elements, taken together, painted a picture that was starkly different from the accidental overdose Pellet described. As Maria's body was moved for autopsy, the initial findings only deepened the mystery. The medical examiner determined her death was due to a mixed drug intoxication, yet the specific drugs and how they entered her system remained unclear. Significantly, there was no residue of clonazepam found in her stomach, directly contradicting Joel Pellet's story. This glaring discrepancy, coupled with the suspicious scene and Pellet's odd behavior, spurred lead detective Sergeant Luis Mata to delve deeper. He understood that initial observations and preliminary findings were just the first layers of a much more complex truth. Sergeant Mata's investigation led him to a former colleague of Joel Pellet, anesthesiologist Dr. John Hunsinger. Dr. Hunsinger heard about Maria's death and the preliminary autopsy results through medical circles. His professional experience instantly triggered a profound sense of alarm. He recognized the pattern of symptoms and the vague initial findings as potentially indicative of something far beyond a typical overdose. Driven by a sense of professional responsibility and a gut feeling, Dr. Hunsinger contacted Detective Mata, urging a detailed toxicology screening, specifically to look for more potent, hospital-grade drugs that might not be part of a routine drug panel. Hunsinger's intuition would prove to be one of the most pivotal moments in the entire investigation, providing the scientific roadmap for uncovering the truth. Months later, the comprehensive toxicology report arrived, delivering a bombshell that irrevocably altered the trajectory of the investigation. Maria Muñoz had not died from an overdose of clonazepam or any other easily accessible prescription pill. Instead, her system contained a precise and deadly cocktail of 7 different surgical drugs: morphine, Demerol, Verse, ketamine, lidocaine, Narcan, and most significantly, a highly elevated level of propofol. Propofol, a powerful sedative and anesthetic, can only be administered intravenously and is typically found only in highly controlled hospital or surgical settings. Dr. Hunsinger, upon seeing the propofol levels, described them as the highest he had ever encountered outside a medical procedure, expressing his unequivocal belief that Maria's death was death by propofol. The presence of such a potent drug, administered by injection, found alongside the IV equipment at the scene, transformed the case from a possible accident or into a clear act of deliberate homicide. This was not a random act. It pointed directly to someone with medical knowledge and access. With the definitive toxicology results in hand, attention intensified on Joel Pellet. The inconsistencies in his initial statements, his suspicious behavior at the scene, particularly the handling of the clonazepam bottle, and now the undeniable evidence of surgical drugs in Maria's system, pointed directly to him as the perpetrator. Investigators theorized that Pellet, leveraging his professional knowledge and access to controlled substances, had likely administered the deadly cocktail to Maria. They believed he may have first hidden some of the drugs in a drink to sedate her, making her incapacitated. Then, with Maria unconscious or gravely weakened, he would have administered the lethal dose of propofol via an IV, waiting until she was deceased before finally calling 911, making any genuine resuscitation efforts tragically impossible. The pinprick on Maria's elbow now had a chilling explanation. The police brought Joel Pellet in for an extensive and recorded questioning. Cameras captured him alone in the interview room, where he was seen crying, screaming, and pushing furniture around. His distress, though visually intense, did little to dispel the growing suspicion surrounding him. During his interview with Sergeant Mata, Pellet maintained his original story about Maria taking clonazepam. However, his responses to critical follow-up questions about the pills, such as how many there were initially or why the bottle wasn't found next to Maria, were evasive and inconsistent. He continued to struggle with the details of his own narrative, creating more doubt. He admitted that the medical supplies found in the home were indeed his, claiming he used them for taking steroids, an explanation that felt increasingly hollow and unbelievable in light of the new forensic evidence directly implicating hospital-grade anesthetics in Maria's death. As the investigation progressed, a crucial and profoundly intimate piece of evidence emerged from the Muñoz Pellet home, Maria's personal journals. These handwritten entries, discovered by investigators, would become an extraordinary and unexpected witness for the prosecution, giving voice to a woman who could no longer speak. Through her detailed writings, Maria revealed the true, painful state of her marriage. For nearly 2 years, Joel Pellet had been engaged in an affair, a secret that had deeply wounded Maria. Despite the heartbreak, Maria desperately wanted to keep her family together for the sake of their 2 young sons, ages 5 and almost 2. Her journals, however, depicted a woman struggling with immense emotional pain but ultimately determined to move forward with her life, not end it. The entries painted a vivid picture of Maria's growing resolve and her plans for independence. She wrote openly about her desire to hire a divorce attorney and her thoughtful plans for the future of her children and herself. Just the day before her death, Maria had explicitly written, in her own hand,
"What is it that I want? Number 1, move forward."
This powerful statement directly contradicted Joel Pellet's assertion to police that Maria had been pretty depressed lately and was suicidal. The journals showed Maria's resilience, her deep love for her children, and her hope for a life beyond her failing marriage. They also revealed instances of Joel's escalating anger and controlling behavior. Phone call records later presented in court detailed an argument where Pellet yelled at Maria, cursed at her, and even, in a fit of rage, punched and smashed the windshield of a vehicle. Further strengthening the case against Pellet was the testimony of his mistress, surgical nurse Janet Arredondo. After meticulous investigation, authorities convinced Arredondo to cooperate, and her testimony provided damning details that connected Pellet to the means and motive. She revealed that Pellet had admitted to her that he had given Maria something to calm her down on the day of her death. Even more critically, Arredondo confirmed that Pellet had brought various powerful drugs home from work, including propofol, directly linking him to the source of the lethal substance found in Maria's system. Her statements corroborated the prosecution's theory regarding the administration of the drugs and pellets' access to them, solidifying the narrative of a premeditated act. Armed with the compelling toxicology report, the glaring inconsistencies in Pellet's story, the physical evidence from the scene, including the telltale IV equipment, the crucial testimony of his mistress, and the powerful, posthumous testimony from Maria's own journals, prosecutors built a robust and airtight case. An all-women prosecution team, who affectionately came to be known as Maria's team, took on the challenging task of bringing Joel Pellet to justice. They understood the profound impact Maria's journals would have on the jury, not just as legal evidence, but as a window into Maria's character and her unwavering spirit. They meticulously prepared to present Maria as she truly was, a loving mother, bright and vibrant, emphasizing that her writings were not those of a suicidal person, but of someone determined to rebuild her life and secure a better future for her children. They were prepared to let Maria speak for herself. The trial of Joel Pellet began in March 2023. Over 9 intense days, the prosecution systematically presented their case, laying out the meticulous investigative work and the narrative of a calculated crime. They showed the jury the unsettling bodycam footage from the morning of Maria's death, highlighting Pellet's suspicious demeanor and actions, especially his movement to retrieve and pocket the clonazepam bottle. They presented the detailed findings of the medical examiner and the explosive toxicology report, explaining the precise nature of the drugs found in Maria's system and the absolute impossibility of their accidental ingestion. Expert witnesses, including Dr. Hunsinger, testified to the lethality of propofol and the extraordinarily high concentration found in Maria, unequivocally stating that such levels could only be achieved through intravenous administration. The emotional weight of Maria's journals in the courtroom was profound. Prosecutors read excerpts, allowing Maria's own words to resonate throughout the courtroom, echoing her struggles, her deep love for her children, and her unwavering determination to find happiness and build a new life. These intimate reflections served as a direct and powerful rebuttal to the defense's desperate attempt to portray Maria as depressed or suicidal. The jury heard Maria's voice, clear and unwavering, from beyond the grave, testifying to her desire to live and move forward. The testimony of Joel Pellet's mistress further solidified the prosecution's argument, providing direct, damning links between Pellet, the acquisition of the drugs, and the fatal events of that September morning. Every piece of evidence, every witness, converged to paint a clear picture of a calculated act. After hearing all the evidence, the jury deliberated for less than an hour. On March 30, 2023, they returned with a swift and unanimous guilty verdict. Joel Pellet was convicted of the murder of Maria Muñoz. The verdict brought a measure of justice for Maria, her children, and her devastated family, confirming what the evidence had so powerfully suggested. While the loss of Maria was immeasurable, her journals, discovered in the aftermath of a devastating crime, became her enduring testimony, providing the clarity and courage that ultimately led to the conviction of her killer, and ensured her story, though tragic, would not be told in silence.